Reinvent yourself after 50. It's not a command, but it's a really good idea. I'll explain why in this video. How's it going, Reinventers? I'm Amelia, and this is Reinventing You. I want to inspire you to reinvent yourself. And the reason I want you to reinvent yourself, so that you can live a life of joy, fulfillment, and purpose. I post weekly. I am glad you are here. To support me, I would appreciate you doing one of two things, or possibly both. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please do so. I know I can't tell you how many times I watch other YouTubers and just watch and don't do anything, but it really does make a difference. It helps me know that this video or this subject is important for you so that I can do similar videos in the future. Also, it helps me to know that people are interested in reinventing themselves. So please subscribe. If you've already subscribed, or maybe you just want to do it anyway, please give this video a thumbs up. Thank you so very much. Reinvent yourself after 50. Now, I have talked about reinventing yourself in all my videos because that's what this channel is all about. So why after 50? It's part of my story, and I've told this story some, so I'll just give you a little brief condensed version. Oh, wait. Before I do that, I just realized, I was looking up in the thing, I was like, oh, there's something missing. I've never lit my candle that I usually do before, that was a lot of smoke, before starting the video. So hopefully I can do this without burning my hand. So hang on, let me put this over on the shelf. I don't know if this, oh, that candle may go out. It's looking pretty sad. The candle went out. Ah! Okay, so let's try this again. Striking a match. Not striking a match. There we go. Getting a little smoke. Taking the match to the candle. Hoping it lights. Hoping it stays lit. There we go. Alright, let's try this again, shall we? As I was saying, reinventing yourself after age 50 is important for my own story. I was 50 years old when I went to a suicide prevention workshop and learned about the fact that when you turn 50 is really this like emotional upheaval in a lot of people's lives. People are more prone to do stupid things, become addicted, have affairs, steal, get on drugs, all these kinds of things. Gain weight, all these things that happen at what we call the midlife. And that one of the things you can do to help yourself through this time is to reinvent yourself. Now, I have to say that there's a lot of ways you can reinvent yourself, and 50 is not the only age to reinvent yourself. I'm just saying that's part of my story, and I know a lot of people who get this age, this is the best time for them to do that. So I kind of want to unpack all of those ideas. One of the things that when we turn 50, if you have not turned 50 yourself, you may not realize this yet, but it's this huge time. And when we think, what have I done with my life so far? You know, what goals have I reached or missed? Or how can I improve? Am I going to live another 50 years? You know, I may have lived, as much as I possibly can. How can I spend the rest of my time in the best way that I can? Now, not everybody asks these questions, and not everybody goes through this sort of self-examination, but it is a really great time to take stock of your life and to say, okay, things are not shaping out as I thought they would, and I need to do something about it. So that the age kind of is the momentum. I'm 50, okay, I got to get going. I can't waste any more time. I can't waste 50 more years. I've got to. So there's like this mental attitude of, this is a good time for me to start over. This is a good time for me to discover my own purpose. This is a good time to make major changes in my life. What are the kind of changes that you can make? Now, for me, it was a career change. I decided to, I just realized I'm wearing the wrong shirt. But you don't care, do you? Oh boy. The choice of reinventing myself came about because of some things that happened in my life. I was a full-time minister, but I was approaching burnout. There were some other things going on, and I didn't feel authentic. I wasn't being myself, and I just said, okay, I feel like God's calling me to something else. I need to get out. And I was fortunate that at the time I'd been in the ministry for 20 years, actually exactly 20 years, so that I could retire even though I really wasn't due any income until 62, I think. So I decided, even though I don't have income myself, my husband is still working as a pastor, and we have, other ways of making money, so I can just retire. Now, it did make things very tight around here, and if they still are, but it was the right thing for me to do. So for me, reinventing myself involved a career change. Now, not like I immediately went and got, another full-time job. Right now, I work part-time in a fair trade store, and I am a creator on YouTube. So those are two of the things that I have changed in my life and sort of part of the reinventing mindset, I guess, that I incorporate in my life. So a lot of people, when they reinvent themselves, it is a career change. It might be the fact that at 50 you are not seen as viable in the workplace, and you're not getting as many of the promotions or the opportunities that you used to have. Maybe you've been in the industry that you're working in for so long, and you make so much money, and your company or your employers are like trying to save, and so they're going to hire younger folks who will work flex time, or maybe not have the experience than you do, but they don't have to pay them as much. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times to reinvent yourself, so I'm going to make a career change. Now, that's a kind of a circumstantial idea of career change. It could be more emotional or physical. Mine was more of an emotional, mental kind of, I've got to get out of this, or I'm going to do something stupid. I'm burned out. I needed to go a different direction. So both of those things can happen. Sometimes they all happen at one time, and you have to make some huge changes in your life. And that's why you reinvent yourself in terms of your career. There are other ways to reinvent yourself. You can say, I've got to make some health changes in my life. I'm 50, I'm overweight, I'm not in shape, I have terrible, social habits. I spend all my time on social media. I'm not taking care of my hair or my, grooming, my appearance, my clothes are all ragged. Whatever it is, I've got to reinvent myself. Maybe you are thinking, I need to reinvent my space. Maybe you're downsizing. I talk about this a lot in my videos. Both Marie Kondo and Swedish death cleaning. You can see that video up here about Swedish death cleaning. But one of the things I'm doing right now is my husband and I were going to be moving out of this house, which is a parsonage, into the house where we're remodeling at the moment. And that's where we're going to live. But we're having to combine, two houses into one. A lot of stuff here we're getting rid of, and really having to think, do we really want this stuff? We've already gotten rid of an incredible amount of stuff in this last month. So, it feels good, but we still have a ways to go. And so you might be thinking, I need to reinvent my space. And that could be downsizing. It could be minimalism. Maybe you're not moving per se, but you're just minimalizing your whole life. And there are so many videos and podcasts out there about minimalization. Minimalization, is that a word? Minimalism. So I'm not going to go over all of that, but that's just one way that you can reinvent yourself. Another way you can reinvent yourself is say, I've got to do something about my relationships. Now, it could be you are in a marriage, or a relationship with a partner, or maybe it's your friends who are toxic. I know that a lot of people in the pandemic have made decisions to separate or divorce from their spouses, or separate from their partners, because it has, I saw an article, I have not read it, about how the pandemic and being close to each other, lockdown, and spending all this time maybe kind of reveals things that were going on in your relationship that were underneath everything, but you were both so busy and you were never, in the same room at the same time for a lot of times. So it really has brought up a lot of good things and bad things. But, for some relationships, this is, I've got to reinvent who I am. I've been a married person, now I'm going to be a divorced person, or I've been in a relationship, now I'm going to be single. What does that mean? Or I have these toxic friends. Now, it could be that being in lockdown has been helpful to be away from the toxic friends, and maybe that's made you realize, these people I've been hanging out with are not that great. Why have I been doing stuff with them? And I found, just being online with these people or spending more time with my partner has been a lot better than being with this toxic people. So, what I'm saying is a relationship can be an area where you can reinvent yourself. Now, I've given you some examples of how you can reinvent yourself. You have to choose. I'm telling you right now, don't try to do it all. Pick one. What happens a lot of times, if you reinvent yourself in one area, you're going to reinvent yourself in other areas. It'll sort of have a trickle-down effect. But if you try to do everything and change everything at once, it can backfire on you. Why is 50 a great age to reinvent yourself? I think I've talked about a little bit about how it's this, oh wait, I'm 50, I've got to do, but why not another age? I like to talk about how reinventing yourself is really helpful in the second half of life. Now that could be any age. It could be 30, it could be 25. Whatever. You may have something happen in your life and you realize, okay, I've got to make some major changes, and that can be a time, and 50 is usually a lot of us, that's a great time. Now, my son is in college and he feels like he's reinventing himself. Now, he's going to hate that I mentioned in this video, but anyway, what happens is when you're young like that, is that really reinventing yourself, or is that just discovering yourself? Yes and no. I think there is a reinventing component to it where you're making major changes. But also, when you are in the second half of life, especially if you're around 50 years old and you decide to reinvent yourself, you also have a lot of life experience to look back on and realize what has worked and what hasn't in your life. You don't really have all that much experience when you're young. So you're still sort of not in the experimental phase. It's more like you're in the discovering who you are phase. When you age and when you learn and when you have more experience, you're going to grow on that base of who you are. And a lot of times you get in the second half of life around age 50 and say, oh wait, I don't know, I'm appreciative of all the things that I've done and where I've been and everything, but maybe that's not quite who I am. When you're young, you're still trying to figure all of that out. And that is a natural part of who you are. I'll give my own example. When I was in college, when I started college, I was determined I was going to be an English major. I was going to teach in a college age situation. I was going to be a professor. Both my parents were teachers. That was my goal. And I got into college and I had some experiences that were not great. I gained a lot of weight. I know my senior year, I broke my foot and I got mono and I gained all this weight. And I blame, part of the weight gain was I had an internship in January of that year where I worked just down the street from this great ice cream place. I ate so much ice cream. But I know that's not all of why I gained weight, but that's just part of, my senior experience. And also I was working as the assistant house director in a dorm, and so I was kind of separated from a lot of my friends, and I had different groups of friends. I had my sorority friends, I had my sorority party friends, I had my independent friends, I had my independent friends who'd already graduated. I had all these different groups of people, and it was like, in order to make a decision, I got to spend time with them, I got to be this person or that person. So it was just not socially a great time for me. And like I said, I gained a lot of weight, and I graduated and I had no plans. I had no job. I didn't know what I was going to do. I ended up going to school part-time thinking I was going to teach. But by that time, I realized teaching is not my thing. That is just not where I wanted to go. That is not what I wanted to do. So I reinvented myself. I was back living at home. The way I reinvented myself was physically. I lost weight. I mean, a tremendous amount of weight. I got really good in shape. I, looked for jobs, and I eventually did find one, but my reinvention happened physically. That's what I did physically for myself to create, a new future for me. Was I really reinventing, or was I discovering myself? Well, yes and no. It was a reinventing process, but I was also learning about who I was. Looking back, I made some great decisions. I was the healthiest I've ever been. I wish I'd kept that up. It also led me to my first job, which eventually sent me, down. I eventually met my husband, and I felt a call to the ministry. All those kinds of things happened because of that decision. And the impetus, the beginning point, was changing myself in terms of my health. So yes, you can reinvent yourself. But looking on this side, I made some great decisions and some poor decisions over the course of my life. What are my, what should I have done? Looking back, my husband and I sat down, I think last night, and said, we should have never done this. We should have never done that. Made some, we both made poor career decisions. And I say career, I'm talking about within the ministry. Some things we decided, let's stay at this church, Seriously, I just checked this out. I just changed the battery on, I just plugged in my camera because it said the battery was dying or whatever. And anyway, and now I'm thinking back, what was I talking about? Where was I going with this idea? But I guess if I want to recapture that, get a cup of tea. I made my tea this time before I started the video instead of during the video. Aren't you glad you can watch me make tea? I was having tea I hadn't had it in a while, and I couldn't remember if I liked it or not, but actually I do like it. I can't remember. Ceylon, I think, is the name of the tea. What I'm trying to say is, when I reinvented myself as a young person, it was a health decision. I was not in the second half of life. I was not anywhere near 50. Looking back at my life, I can say, yeah, that probably was a reinventing experience, but it was also a self-discovery, because I found out, what I really liked and who I was, and it helped me to shape who I was in the future. And like I said, I have made stupid mistakes and decisions that my husband and I look back and say, okay, what did we make that for in our careers as ministers? That was really not a smart thing to do. We thought we were being smart, but what did we know? Now that I look back, I can say, okay, I'm going to base my future decisions on what I did in the past or didn't do in the past. So when you reinvent yourself and you're 50, you do have that advantage. I talk about learning your purpose through Ikigai. One of the great things about Ikigai is that you really can tell what you get good at, what you love, what you are rewarded for, and what helps other people, where you can't see a lot of that when you're that young. Now, that doesn't mean everybody can't see that. You might be able to see, if you're young, what your purpose is. And that is awesome. If you discover your purpose, your Ikigai, when you are really young, it will make life from now on, even up to 50 and beyond, so much easier. And I think that also you can go back and re-examine who you are. And I know that a lot of people who talk about reinventing yourself say you have to constantly reinvent yourself. Maybe that is true on a certain scale, but at the same time, if you have reinvented yourself, you know what change is and how hard it is. You're not going to do major changes all of the time. You just cannot do it. Now, what happens, I think, is that maybe when you're young, you discover who you are and what your purpose is and everything, but you get comfortable in doing other things, or you get comfortable in bad habits, or you get comfortable in doing things that don't serve your purpose because they're easy, or they're expected, or you know, sometimes, oh, well, this is going to get me a lot of money. I mean, my very first job, it was with the federal government, and everybody said, oh, you need to get that job. You have such great benefits. And I was miserable. It was awful. I mean, just, I don't even want to talk about five years of my life, but I learned a lot, but it was probably not the best decision that I could have made. I appreciate a lot of things about it. Definitely appreciate the fact that I got to move to a big city and met my husband, but maybe we would have met in another place and time. I don't know. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that when you think about your life in terms of reinventing yourself, once you've made that huge decision and those huge changes, you're probably not going to do that again and again. You do have to make sure that once you have reinvented yourself, you aren't backsliding. You aren't going back and doing the same things you used to. I have that problem right now. I realize I tend to slide back into the comfortable. And let me tell you, this last year, the pandemic has been a time where you get slide right back into the comfortable, doing it the way you used to. You have to really be careful. Maybe we need a reboot video about how to reboot after or getting us through the pandemic time. I mean, we're still in it. I mean, it's not over yet, but there's light maybe at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train coming. Anyway. So I've talked about age 50, why that's important. I've talked about, a little bit about reinventing yourself, why you want to reinvent yourself. The combination between making major changes and being a certain age, I can't say it's easier, but at the same time, it is easier. And maybe when you are either starting out in college or you just graduated, that's a great time to reinvent yourself. Maybe when you turn 29, that's a great time to reinvent yourself, or 40. But there's something about 50 that is the time to reinvent yourself. I really believe that. I think that, like I said, you've got your life behind you, the experiences, you're discovering your purpose or rediscovering your purpose. You can, better see yourself in terms of who you really are that you might not know at other ages. You're really, when you also get to 50, there's sort of I don't really care what you think of me. I need to do things for myself rather than for other people. One of my most popular videos, and it's up here, is about dealing with nosy people. And I think why that resonates with so many people is because we spend a lot of our time in life trying to get approval, trying to get admiration, trying to get popularity. It's all about other people. And when you get to age 50, you realize this is not about other people. This is about me. And reinventing yourself, trying to be your authentic self, is so much easier in terms of realizing that other people's opinions don't really matter in the long run, because you've had 50 years of trying to get other people to like you, and it just hasn't worked. I'm speaking for a friend. So, do you feel like 50 is the age to reinvent yourself? Let me know in the comments. If you are 50 or not 50, you might have some insight. Maybe you're 70 and just say, hey, 50, I didn't know what I was doing. Now I do. Or maybe when you're 25, you say, hey, no, this is the better age. So let me know what you think in the comments. I love to hear from you. If you haven't, please like this video. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great one.